What if I told you that I was at the peak of my K-pop career when I died for 7 minutes and met Jesus face to face? His warning about fame will shatter everything you believe about success. My name is Min Jun, and I was once one of the biggest K-pop idols in the world. I never believed in God or the afterlife. I was a person of pure ambition, focused only on success, fame, and making it to the top of the music industry. But what happened to me during those 7 minutes of clinical death revealed a truth about fame that will change how you see your own dreams forever. Let me take you back to where it all began. I was just 17 when I first auditioned for one of Korea's biggest entertainment companies. Like thousands of other hopeful teenagers, I dreamed of the bright lights, the screaming fans, and the international stardom that seemed so glamorous from the outside. After years of grueling training, 18-hour days, strict diets, constant criticism, I finally debuted with my group at 21. The rise was meteoric. Within 2 years, we were selling out stadiums across Asia. Our songs topped charts in 12 countries. The money was flowing in faster than I could spend it. Magazine covers, brand endorsements, luxury cars, penthouse apartments. I had everything I thought would make me happy. I was living what millions of young people around the world considered the ultimate dream. But here's what they don't tell you about fame. Behind those perfect Instagram photos and those flawless performances, I was drowning. The entertainment industry had become my golden cage. Imagine being a bird with clipped wings, trapped in a gilded prison where even your songs aren't your own. Every aspect of my life was controlled, monitored, and manufactured. I couldn't eat what I wanted, couldn't date who I wanted, couldn't even express my real thoughts or feelings. I was a product, not a person. The pressure was suffocating. Every day brought new expectations, new demands, new ways to be perfect. The company, executives controlled every move I made. Smile bigger, dance harder, be more charming, lose more weight. Nothing was ever enough. The fans loved an image of me that wasn't even real, and I was slowly disappearing beneath the mask I wore 24 hours a day. I started having panic attacks during performances. My hands would shake uncontrollably before going on stage. I couldn't sleep, even though I was exhausted beyond belief. The emptiness inside me grew deeper every day. Despite being surrounded by thousands of screaming fans who claimed to love me, how can you feel so alone when you're never actually alone? The worst part was looking in the mirror and not recognizing the person staring back at me. Where was the boy who used to love music just for the joy of creating something beautiful? Where was the teenager who dreamed of touching people's hearts with his art? All I saw was a hollow shell performing for profit, a puppet dancing to someone else's tune. I tried everything to fill that void inside me. Shopping sprees where I'd spend tens of thousands of dollars on things I never used. Expensive cars that gave me a rush for maybe a week before becoming just another possession gathering dust. I surrounded myself with people who claimed to be friends, but who only wanted something from my fame or fortune. It was like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much I poured in, it all drained away, leaving me emptier than before. Nothing worked. The emptiness only grew larger. What made it even worse was the isolation that accompanied all this material abundance. Despite being constantly surrounded by managers, stylists, security guards, and crew members, I felt more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. Despite being constantly surrounded by managers, stylists, security guards, and crew members, I felt more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. Nobody really knew me. How could they? I didn't even know myself anymore. I'd lost touch with who I was beneath all the choreographed movements and scripted interviews. Sleep became my enemy. When I finally had a moment of quiet, when the cameras stopped rolling and the crowds went home, I was left alone with my thoughts, and my thoughts were dark. I started wondering if this was all life had to offer. If this emptiness was my forever, if the boy I used to be was gone for good, I began having what I now realize were spiritual crisis moments. Lying awake at 3 in the morning in yet another hotel room in yet another city, I'd stare at the ceiling and ask questions I'd never asked before. Is this really what success looks like? Is this why I'm here? Is there nothing more to existence than performing and pleasing others and making money? Asterisk. But my body wasn't going to let me ignore these warning signs much longer. The physical toll was becoming impossible to ignore. My body was breaking down from the constant stress, the poor diet, the lack of sleep, and the relentless schedule. My immune system was shot. I was getting sick constantly, but the show had to go on. There was too much money at stake for me to take time to actually recover. I started having chest pains during rehearsals, but I brushed them off as anxiety. My manager would just give me some pills and tell me to push through. Mind over matter, he'd say. The fans are counting on you. But my body was sending me warnings that I was too proud, too scared, and too controlled by others to heed. The irony wasn't lost on me that I was singing songs about love, hope, and dreams while feeling more hopeless than I'd ever felt in my life. Every night I performed for audiences who saw me as their source of inspiration, their reason for happiness, their idol. But inside, I was dying a slow spiritual death, suffocating under the weight of expectations and the complete loss of my authentic self. I was like a lighthouse keeper who had forgotten how to see the light, guiding others to safety while lost in my own darkness. Now, with the clarity that only comes after such an experience, I can see that God was trying to get my attention in so many ways. The panic attacks, the sleepless nights, the growing emptiness, they weren't just symptoms of stress. They were my soul crying out for something real, something true, something that could actually satisfy the deepest hunger of my heart. But I was too busy, too distracted, too caught up in the machine of fame to listen. Then came the night that changed everything. We were preparing for what was supposed to be our biggest concert ever, a sold-out stadium show with over 50,000 people. It was being broadcast live to millions more around the world. This was meant to be the pinnacle of my career, the moment that would cement my place in K-pop history. I remember standing in the wings, listening to the deafening roar of the crowd, feeling my heart pounding, not with excitement, but with a deep, inexplicable dread. Something felt different that night. Something felt wrong, but there was no time to process it. The show must go on. It always must go on. During our third song, as I was hitting the high note that always drove the crowd wild, I felt a sharp, crushing pain in my chest, unlike anything I'd ever experienced. It felt like someone had reached into my ribcage and was squeezing my heart with an iron fist. The stage light suddenly seemed impossibly bright, then started dimming around the edges of my vision. Time seemed to slow down. The roar of 50,000 people began to fade, replaced by a strange, otherworldly silence. Time seemed to slow down. The roar of 50,000 people began to fade, replaced by a strange, otherworldly silence. I tried to keep singing, tried to keep dancing, tried to maintain the perfect image, even as my body was failing me. But the pain intensified, spreading down my left arm and up into my jaw. The crowd was still screaming, still cheering, completely unaware that their idol was having a massive heart attack right in front of them. I collapsed mid-performance, falling to the stage as 50,000 people watched. The music stopped. The screaming changed from excitement to horror. But for me, everything was going quiet. Everything was going dark. And that's when I found myself standing in a place I never expected face to face with the very God I had spent my entire life ignoring. But what Jesus revealed to me about fame will challenge everything you think you know about success. As the monitors went flat, suddenly, I was somewhere else entirely. The sterile hospital room, the frantic voices of the medical team, the cold sensation of the equipment, it all vanished in an instant. I found myself floating, weightless, in what I can only describe as pure space. But this wasn't darkness. This was something beyond anything I had ever experienced. The first thing that struck me was the light. Not harsh, like the fluorescent bulbs in the operating room, but a gentle, all-encompassing radiance that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It was warm, inviting, and filled with an indescribable sense of love. Imagine every sunrise you've ever seen, every candle flame that's brought you comfort, every warm embrace that made you feel safe. This light contained all of that, and infinitely more. The light had colors I had never seen before, hues that don't exist in our physical world. They shifted and danced, creating patterns that spoke directly to my soul. I began moving, though I had no body to propel myself. I was consciousness, pure awareness, gliding through what felt like a tunnel of swirling energy. The walls, if you could call them walls, pulsed with life. They were made of light, but also of music, if that makes any sense. I could see sound and hear colors. Every sense I had ever known was magnified and merged into one overwhelming experience of beauty. The tunnel opened into a landscape that defied all logic. Rolling hills of the most vibrant green stretched as far as I could perceive, dotted with flowers that glowed from within. Trees swayed gently, their leaves shimmering like jewels, creating a symphony of light with every movement. The air itself sparkled, filled with what looked like tiny diamonds dancing in perfect harmony. But it was the sense of peace that overwhelmed me most. Absolute, complete peace. Every worry I had ever carried, every stress, every fear, it all dissolved. I felt lighter than I had ever felt, not just physically, but spiritually. This was home. This was where I belonged. The love here was tangible, surrounding me like a warm embrace from the universe itself. As I moved through this divine landscape, I became aware of beings of pure light approaching me. They had forms, but forms made of radiance and energy. Some appeared as traditional angels with wings of golden light. Others were simply consciousness, shaped into beautiful geometric patterns. They communicated without words, their thoughts flowing directly into my understanding. "Welcome," they seemed to say, though I heard nothing with my ears. "You are loved beyond measure." Asterisk. The feeling of acceptance was overwhelming. These beings knew everything about me, every mistake, every moment of selfishness, every time I had fallen short. And yet their love was unconditional. It was the kind of love I had searched for my entire life, but never found on earth. Then, in the distance, I saw a figure walking toward me. Even from far away, I knew who it was. The love radiating from this being was so intense, so pure, that my spiritual body trembled with recognition. It was Jesus, not the pale, European-looking Jesus from the paintings, but a being of such profound love and authority that I immediately understood why people had followed him across history. As he approached, the entire landscape seemed to brighten. His eyes held the wisdom of ages, yet they looked at me with such personal tenderness that I felt like I was the only soul in existence that mattered to him in that moment. His presence was both humbling and comforting, powerful yet gentle. "My child," he spoke, and his voice was like the most beautiful music ever composed. "I've been waiting for you." Asterisk. I wanted to fall at his feet, but in this realm, such gestures seemed unnecessary. He already knew my heart, my worship, my awe. "Why am I here?" I asked, though again no words were spoken. The communication was direct, soul to soul. Jesus smiled, and that smile could have healed every broken heart that ever existed. "Because you need to understand something crucial about the path you've chosen, something that will save not just your soul, but the souls of those who follow your example." Asterisk. He gestured, and suddenly we were standing in what looked like a vast library. But instead of books, the shelves held glowing orbs of light. Each orb, I somehow understood, contained a human life, complete with all their choices, motivations, and consequences. These are the lives of those who sought fame and worldly success, Jesus explained, his tone becoming more serious. Watch and understand. Asterisk. The orbs began to project their stories into the space around us. I saw countless individuals, actors, musicians, influencers, business leaders, who had achieved everything the world told them to want: money, recognition, admiration, power. But as I watched their life stories unfold, I saw something heartbreaking. What does it profit a person to gain the whole world but lose their very soul? I was witnessing that ancient truth played out in real time. The more famous they became, the further they drifted from love. The more successful they appeared, the emptier they felt inside. They were surrounded by people, yet utterly alone. They had everything, yet possessed nothing of real value. Their souls were withering while their bank accounts flourished. "Do you see?" Jesus asked, his voice heavy with compassion. "The pursuit of worldly fame is a trap. It promises fulfillment, but delivers only emptiness. It offers connection, but creates isolation. It seems to build you up while actually tearing your soul apart." Asterisk. I watched as these successful people tried to fill the void inside them with more success, more recognition, more achievements. But it was like trying to fill a bucket with holes in the bottom. Nothing was ever enough. The hunger for fame became an addiction that consumed them from within. "But teacher," I found myself asking, "what about using fame to help others, to spread good messages?" Asterisk. Jesus nodded, understanding my question before I finished asking it. "The intention matters, my child, but the path is treacherous. Even those who begin with pure hearts often find themselves corrupted by the very system they thought they could use for good. Fame changes people. It whispers lies about their importance, their specialness, their separation from others." Asterisk. He showed me more orbs, people who had started with genuine desires to help, to inspire, to make a difference. But slowly, subtly, their focus shifted. They began to love the applause more than the message. They craved the attention more than the impact. They started performing their spirituality rather than living it. "The secret I'm sharing with you," Jesus continued, "is that true fulfillment comes not from being known by many, but from truly knowing yourself and your connection to divine love. It comes not from having people look up to you, but from you looking up to me. It comes not from accumulating followers, but from following the path of genuine service." Asterisk. His words hit me like a revelation. Love is the force that moves the universe. Not fame, not recognition, not the applause of crowds. I felt the weight of this revelation. In my earthly life, I had been pursuing some form of recognition, some way to feel important and valued. I thought success would bring me happiness, that achievement would bring me peace. But here, in the presence of infinite love, I understood how backwards my thinking had been. "What should I do instead?" I asked. Jesus placed his hand on my shoulder, and the touch filled me with more joy than any earthly accomplishment ever could. "Serve in secret, love without expecting recognition, give without needing credit. Find your fulfillment, not in what people think of you, but in what you can do for them. The greatest among you will be servants of all." Asterisk. He showed me a different set of orbs, people who had lived quietly, humbly, without fame or recognition. Teachers who had changed lives one student at a time. Neighbors who had helped without asking for thanks. Parents who had sacrificed without seeking praise. Volunteers who had given their time expecting nothing in return. Their souls glowed with a light that far outshone any celebrity or successful person I had ever seen. They had true riches, peace, joy, love, purpose. They were connected to the divine source in a way that fame could never provide. "Remember," Jesus said, "I came not to be served, but to serve." If you want to follow me, this is the path. Not the spotlight, but the shadows. Not the stage, but the quiet corners where real love happens. This is where you'll find me. Not in the applause, but in the small acts of kindness no one notices. Asterisk. The vision began to fade, and I sensed my time in this divine realm was ending. But Jesus had one final message for me. When you return, you'll feel the pull of worldly success again. The temptation to seek fame will return stronger than ever, because now you have a story people want to hear. This is your test. Will you use this experience to build your own kingdom, or will you use it to point others toward mine? I felt myself being pulled back through the tunnel of light, back toward my physical body. But Jesus' words echoed in my consciousness. True. Greatness is found in serving, not in being served. Asterisk. When I opened my eyes in that hospital bed, the first thing I noticed wasn't the pain or the relief of being alive, or even the amazement of the medical staff who couldn't explain my recovery. It was the profound shift in my priorities. Everything I had thought mattered before seemed trivial now, and here's the part that will completely transform how you view your own ambitions. The business deals I had been so worried about, the networking events I thought were crucial, the social media followers I had been trying to accumulate, it all felt like chasing after wind. Jesus had shown me what really mattered: love, service, genuine connection, and humble dedication to helping others without expecting anything in return. This experience completely transformed how I live my life. I stepped away from the pursuit of recognition and instead focused on quiet service. I started volunteering at local shelters, not posting about it online. I helped neighbors without taking credit. I chose to measure my success not by what people thought of me, but by how well I could love and serve without needing recognition. And you know what? The peace and fulfillment I found in this new way of living far exceeded anything I had ever experienced in my previous pursuit of success. The love Jesus showed me, that's the real treasure. That's what we're all actually looking for when we chase after fame and recognition. Now you understand Jesus' warning about fame and why it could save your soul. The pursuit of recognition is a trap that promises everything but delivers emptiness. Every like we chase, every moment we perform for approval, every time we seek the spotlight, we're walking away from the very love we're desperately seeking. Think about your own life right now. What are you pursuing? Are you seeking the spotlight, or are you seeking to serve? Are you chasing after recognition, or are you chasing after love? These aren't just philosophical questions. They determine the direction of your entire life. Jesus' warning about fame isn't just for celebrities like I was. It's for all of us. Every time we post something hoping for likes, every time we name drop to impress others, every time we do good things hoping others will notice, we're falling into the same trap. We're trying to fill that God-shaped hole in our hearts with the approval of others. But here's what I learned in those 7 minutes that changed everything. True fulfillment comes not from being known by many, but from truly knowing your divine purpose. It comes from serving others without expecting recognition, from loving without needing credit, from giving without seeking return. This is exactly what Jesus meant when he said, "The greatest among us will be servants of all." Love is the force that moves the universe, not fame, not recognition, not the applause of crowds. And that love is found not in the spotlight, but in the quiet moments of genuine service. So what does this mean for your life today? How will Jesus' warning about fame change the way you approach your goals, your relationships, your daily choices? Will you continue chasing the world's empty promises, or will you choose the path of authentic love and service? The choice is yours. But remember, I died for 7 minutes to bring you this message. Don't let it be in vain. Choose love over recognition. Choose service over the spotlight. Choose the narrow path that leads to real life. What step will you take today to live this truth? Share your thoughts below, not for recognition, but to encourage others walking the same journey toward authentic purpose.